So I recently watched Terry Gilliam's Brazil and was left with a lot of thoughts. I originally got into the movie because I watched Clockwork Orange and then I wanted something, with the same concept, but, get something different out of it. I particularly like the ending in Clockwork Orange, and I won't say any spoilers on that, but, I highly recommend that film. It was really great. But then, getting into Brazil and then seeing it portrayed in different perspectives, obviously there was a lot of influence from 1985, George Orwell, and so putting that in, but not only talking about, these different systems within society. So more specifically, I want to talk about how there's a portrayal of heroes and, viewing this film in sort of the perspective of a child. So what that means isn't dumbing down the movie and, looking at it that way. It's more understanding the movie for what it is, right? So the way the film starts is you get an introduction to Sam Lowry, the main character.
Has anybody seen Sam Lowry?
And he's daydreaming, he's this hero, he has wings, he's flying, saving, the damsel in distress and all that stuff, a classic thing that a kid would, dream about. But the main concept you want to get out of here, or is what I got out of here, is the understanding of what a hero means to the story. So there isn't one particular hero, and that's kind of, understood by the end of the story. And see, the ending also leaves in sort of that place where there's no specific hero, and so it's up to the audience interpretation. So what I wanted to really get into was then what does it mean to be a hero in this society? And more specifically, how can you combat this bureaucratic government? Sam himself being a hero in some ways. And I'll get into that second, but what more I want to talk about was the introduction from hero from start to finish. So from the start you see Sam as this hero on wings saving the damsel in distress, as said, and then you meet a character, Tuttle.
Harry Tuttle, heating engineer at your service.
So this character obviously, wanted by the government, wanted by information retrieval. He isn't, the way they describe it, they make him sound almost like we talked about heroes, now you're going to talk about villains, so it's almost this villain role like a monster. But, he's really not that guy. He's repairing your AC, and he's doing this without the paperwork, He's still doing the same job, he's still getting paid, he's just avoiding the paperwork, and that's his way of combating the system. It's so minuscule to the gravity of this situation, to this context, this environment, that as a whole you wouldn't perceive it as a hero, but it's actually the entire opposite. That's the entire concept of what a hero is. It's such a unique character when you really take your time to think about it, is this guy that's repairing ACs, and the way that he's portrayed, almost like a spy, almost like an assassin. It's really cool to think about because he just doesn't want to go through all that extra work that the bureaucratic system sets up for him. And seeing Robert De Niro make that interesting cameo playing his character, it's pretty cool. And seeing, how he makes his entrances and how he makes his exits, it's similar to what a hero would do, someone like Robin Hood. So then that's what you get an understanding of the differences in the heroes, but then you also understand how these heroes fit into society, if that makes sense, right? To be a hero, you need to fight against something, fight. And in this case, he's fighting the system, he's fighting the paperwork as a whole, and he just wants to do his job. All he's doing is just going against this government that's unnecessarily so forcible on its people. And then going from that into Sam's character, it's pretty interesting seeing the development as a whole. So Sam is a product of nepotism, right? His parents are deeply rooted into the system, and, initially he tries to fight it, he tries to combat it, and he fails, like any hero would. Their journey starts with a failure. So he fails, he accepts information retrieval, obviously for the reasons being different. He wants to meet this girl of his dreams, but in the end, he still accepts that position and he gets information retrieval, which makes you realize that even so flawed the system is, people who aren't the most fond of this system will still take advantage of it in some way or another. And specifically thinking about when he was first offered that role in information retrieval, when he was eating dinner with his mom and some friends, when the terrorists attacked, they had no reaction. These elite people For them, this is a daily occurrence. For them, this doesn't matter. As a hero, there's this certain part in your character. You grow, you understand that the things around you aren't right. But to understand that they aren't right, you need to view it incorrectly. And that's what Sam's character is essentially doing. He's seeing these terrorist attacks and not blinking an eye, almost as if it doesn't matter to him, which it doesn't. And then later in the film, you know, falling in love with Jill, and you see how when she gets hit by the terrorist attack, he actually cares, you know, when it happens to someone close to him. And that's that arc in that character. As dark as it may be, it's still following that concept of a hero story. So you see how he goes up to her first, and then she tells him, oh, care for these other people as well, and you know, his character is building from there. So what's so messed up exactly about this is that near the end of the film, or basically the end of the film, is when Sam is about to get tortured by Jack, and then he escapes into this dream where he's happily living with Jill, and oh no, spoiler warning, he's not, right? He's completely gone. Before Jack can even get to him, I think he just starts the torture, and then Sam is completely out and he's in his own world. And so he can never really become that hero. He can't save anyone from the system. He's just learning about it. How can he help these other people when he can't combat the system as a whole itself? Not exactly. Why? Because in a way he does combat the system just by not falling to the torture. They give up on the torture. And what makes this such a powerful scene is because when Jack first goes to torture Sam, you know, Sam being one of his best friends, he says, why'd you put me in this position? He doesn't care that he's torturing someone as his job, right? That's his job. That's the way that the government is set up, that this whole system works, is everyone will follow their jobs, and that's just how it works. You know, Sam found a way out of this is just by living in his own reality. By just ignoring the fact that the system exists, and in this case, literally escaping reality in his own mind, he's able to combat the system in his own way, just as much as Tuttle's able to combat the system in his own way, just by not doing some paperwork. You know, it's just the smallest thing, but and in this society specifically, the only way to combat the system is to do it in the most minuscule way possible, because there's no grand way to do it. We clearly see that in Sam's daydream that it does happen, but that's because it's in his daydream. It doesn't happen in reality. And it makes it so interesting is because the heroes that Gilliam makes are heroes of themselves, right? They're heroes of escaping this reality of this corrupt system. Looking back to the point I made earlier of looking at it to kids' perspective, when you're a kid and you're thinking about a big office at a higher level, you're going to be thinking about how information retrieval really is. You know, you go up the elevator, there's these dark, gloomy rooms, and it's so tiny, compact, and you just have work stacking on top of each other. And that's what I think Gilliam was really trying to go for, is that almost naiveness, you know, that innocence, that combining with, you know, building up that hero's journey, because a hero's journey is what a kid would be more enticed towards. And that's what I really associated this film with. Obviously, there were a lot more points, a lot more essays online that you can find about, you know, more specifics within the bureaucratic system, but that's just something I wanted to share. So actually watching this film as a whole was something that I really enjoyed specifically. You know, I put it in the background, but then it got more and more my attention, and I was, you know, fully engaged with it. And I went into the movie thinking, okay, there's something cool I could get out of this. Maybe there's something I can talk about. But mostly I was just engaged with the whole story and, you know, seeing all these characters and seeing this world expand. It's only when the end of the movie comes, you know, you get that twist, you know, Sam's still in his dream world. And it made me stop and think, okay, I was just engaged this whole time. This is just crazy to think about, because it makes you realize just how much the bureaucratic system plays a role in this film as a whole, and what Sam's character means as a whole. And maybe it doesn't even mean anything. You know, he's living in his own world, just as every other character is living in his own world that's combating the system.